Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen. Welcome to the latest edition of Seconds Out Flexpectations. Here every Thursday, 4:30 p.m. to look ahead to the boxing action over the weekend. It's an incredibly busy week this week, so I hope you can forgive me for focusing predominantly on the main events of the three major shows, two here in the UK and one huge show out in the US, obviously with world implications, global implications, if you will. And we'll start there, of course, with Tyson Fury's third fight with Deontay Wilder, set for this Saturday night. We've got Radio Raheem out there, of course, and he'll be filling us in on all the latest news across fight week, as well as the press conferences, weigh-in, and so on. But it's a fight that seems to have really picked up steam over the last couple of weeks. It seemed like when it was first scheduled for July, no one was particularly interested, given the manner in which Fury won the second fight between the two of them. So dominant, so apparently conclusive. People were surprised that Wilder opted to exercise his right to an immediate rematch, obviously scuppering any hope of Fury against Anthony Joshua. Back then, Joshua has since lost his unified titles to Alexander Usyk, of course. So no one was particularly interested. It seemed like an unnecessary rematch, going over old ground, something forced upon us by a rematch clause, which a lot of boxing fans aren't keen on as a general concept anyway. But then as time's gone on, and for all the mockery of Wilder's new kind of training methods and the way he's using weights and doing stuff in the water and all that kind of stuff, it seems like an element of that has caught on, that people are noticing perhaps that Deontay Wilder is more focused, more motivated, keen to try new things, because he looked completely out of ideas in the second fight with Fury, and certainly things needed to change. Now, I can understand why a lot of people aren't happy that he removed Mark Breland from his team after Breland threw the towel in, something that Wilder from recent quotes still hasn't forgiven. And I think Breland, given his experience, not just as a trainer, but as a top-level fighter, both amateur and pro, was invaluable. However, you could tell that something needed to change for Wilder's mindset, if nothing else. He needed to shake things up, and by employing Malik Scott, who's been around the camp for ages, as his head trainer, things are changing. The strategy will be different, presumably, for the Fury fight, and also the work they're doing in the gym. Whether that makes any difference remains to be seen. But just from that need to find something to cling on to, something to hang his confidence on, Wilder needed a change, and we shall see how that proves on Saturday night, or how effective that proves, on Saturday night. But yeah, it's hard to see how Wilder can box any worse than he did in the last Fury fight. He was absolutely dominated throughout, and seemed hurt a lot, but more bewildered than anything else by the amount of shots, the different angles they were landing from, and just generally getting pushed back and beaten up, something that he hadn't experienced before in the boxing game. Wilder's always been the kind of big puncher, never count him out to fight. But I think by kind of round 4 or 5, maybe even earlier against Fury, you could tell that he wasn't going to get that knockout. His punches, the steam had come off them early on, and he just appeared increasingly disheartened more than anything else. I think Wilder's style, he's never going to outbox a really good boxer, but as long as he stays patient, there's always a chance he can land that huge right hand. But the problem is, if you become disheartened early in the fight, that threat is mitigated to a large extent, and that's what Fury found. For Fury, you would assume it will be more of the same. You know, he had such great success pushing Wilder onto the back foot, compared to fighting from the outside and using so much lateral movement in their first fight, which was ruled a draw. I had Fury winning by a couple of points, but it was a close fight, and you could tell, obviously, the 2 knockdowns were in Wilder's favour, and you could see why Fury would go with the second fight strategy rather than the first, because it's a much less risk, certainly on the surface. He was never rocked or remotely troubled by Wilder in the second fight, whereas he was dropped twice the second time, as we know, has become a much used meme of him rising apparently from the dead to see out the 12th round and even end the final round of that first fight on top. But he won't want to be in that situation again, because should Wilder drop him so heavily a second time, you would imagine he would do it earlier in the fight than the fading kind of championship rounds, and then Fury could be in real trouble. Wilder's power is nothing to joke about, and I think boxers have only got that kind of miraculous recovery in them once in a career, and Fury's maybe already used his up. So he'll need to be careful. He'll need to stay on his P's and Q's, if you like. But you would expect him to feel less danger in pushing Wilder back, taking the leverage and the range out of Wilder's shots, and sapping his strength by kind of leaning on, pushing him back, belabouring him to head and body, getting him into the ropes and the corners as he did last time. And you would hope that Wilder has learned from that. He'll use his movement a bit more, use his jab a lot more, try and stay out of trouble early and keep the fight at least, keep himself in the fight at least going into the middle to late rounds, because that's when he could be most dangerous, especially if Fury grows tired or even frustrated that he doesn't have quite the same success against Wilder as he did the second time around. So it's kind of become more intriguing as time's gone on. And for Wilder, more so than just getting the win and getting revenge, it's about regaining his pride. Not just through the manner of the defeat, which was pretty, one-sided and humiliating, I guess, from his point of view, but also from the excuses that were given after the fight, the crazy stuff about the spiked drink and, the stuff about his outfit as well. And I think someone on the conference call recently asked him about what outfit he was going to wear this time, and apparently didn't sense the trap in the question and just talked about how it was going to be something special. So no more excuses, hopefully, whatever happens this time around. But, I spoke to David Hay about this yesterday, and it must be incredibly difficult to come back mentally from what happened in the second fight and its aftermath than, just simply losing a fight, a close one, or, having an injury to blame it on. Obviously, Wilder did have injuries in the second Fury fight, but I don't think they were pivotal in the outcome. So he will be fighting hard and be more motivated than ever, you would think, to regain his pride and to give a much better account of himself, whatever the result. I can't see past Fury winning again. I'm not sure it'll be quite as dominant as it was the second time, sorry. And even if it is, it won't be as kind of a bigger statement as it was the first time, because no one was really expecting it outside of the Fury camp. This time around, we kind of think he had so much success with that strategy last time, we're kind of half expecting it to happen again. I think Wilder will prove more resistant to that this time around. I think it'll go longer, maybe even to points, but I can't see anything other than a Fury clear victory, and then potentially a fight with Usyk or Joshua, depending on who wins that rematch. But yeah, really excited about that. Great fight, one that is more competitive than it seemed perhaps a few weeks ago. So fair play to both guys, particularly Wilder, for building the fight. I watched the Wilder interview on BT Sport a couple of days ago. That's obviously on our channel now as well. And he just seems incredibly likeable until he starts talking about Breland, of course. Just seems humble, seems to know what went wrong, what he needs to do to correct it. Whether that works out in practice against someone as accomplished as Fury remains to be seen. For me, Fury's the best heavyweight in the world today. And no one's really solved the puzzle yet. People talk about John McDermott, obviously very early in his career, but that was avenged inside the distance. And, second Derek Chisora fight, same thing. Won the rematch more clearly. The Wilder rematch, probably the best performance of Fury's career. So if anyone's good at fighting the same opponent more than once, it seems to be Tyson Fury, which is ominous for Wilder. But this video is going to be incredibly long. If I carry on talking about that fight as much as I could fill half an hour just on that. But talking of pride, there is a battle for Liverpool or Scouse pride also on Saturday night in the city itself, of course, between Anthony Fowler and Liam Smith. Former world champion Liam Smith looked very unfortunate to lose his last fight on the cards against Magomed Kurbanov, when most people felt he did more than enough to win. Whereas Fowler's coming off a couple of good victories at a lower level, and this is a step-up fight for him. It makes sense because they're both from the same city. There's apparently some sort of bad blood from the amateur days between Fowler and the Smith family, maybe more so Callum than Liam. Liam's a bit younger, obviously, and they weren't on GB at the same time or anything like that. But yeah, it's just, again, a delicately poised fight. A really great card, I should say, as well. I'm not going to go into depth on the undercards because we haven't really got the time. But yeah, Cheeseman, Williamson, Metcalf against Conway, so a couple of really good super welterweight fights. So Shannon Courtney's defending her title. Loads of good stuff on that card, and I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, the main event, you got Liam Smith, former world champion, been in with the likes of Canelo, Jamie Munguia, given a good account of himself, good ring IQ, an all-rounder, kind of good at everything, nothing amazing stands out, good on the inside, lovely body shots, knows how to switch up the attack, and just very, very experienced. And then you've got Fowler, really good amateur, hasn't had it all his own way as a pro. Obviously had that defeat to Scott Fitzgerald, which I'm sure still plays on his mind, decided by a last round knockdown. He suffered when he was completely spent, I think, and fair play to Fitzgerald, he might never again, and this is something I spoke to Michael Jennings about yesterday, he might never be as good again as on that night, which is, tragic for him. But for Fowler, I think he learned a lot from that defeat. Trains now with Shane McGuigan. He's on a really good run of form. McGuigan's got him pacing himself better, thinking more in the ring, using an excellent jab a lot more, varying his attack more than he has in the past. And for a super welter, Fowler's very, very big for the weight and can punch his weight as well. But Liam Smith's always proved very durable, so I don't see Fowler kind of taking him out with one shot or anything like that. I think this is a fight that will be decided in the later rounds, whoever comes out on top. And it is a real battle for local pride, if you like. Both guys have played up to that in the build-up. Fowler's been a bit more laid back, I think, in the build-up. Liam Smith's talked a lot about Fowler being a 4-round fighter and how he'll walk through him after those 4 rounds are done. So I don't think it's kind of kidology. I think, his tactics aren't going to be hard to decipher. He will mix it up a bit, but generally he's going to put it on Fowler and hope and believe that Fowler will crack. Fowler, on the other hand, you would imagine will start off boxing, using his jab and kind of working his way into the fight a little bit, pacing himself, because he knows that the middle rounds and the later rounds are seen to be Liam Smith's territory, and he'll want to at least hold his own when the fight moves on to that. It could be a very technical fight, similar to Liam Smith's 2 bouts with Liam Williams. And obviously Smith came out on top in those victories, which look even better as time has gone on. But yeah, really, really good fight. Looking forward to that one on a stacked card. And we always, promoters often use the adjective stacked, not always the most honestly. But in this one, it really is a good card. Peter McGrail, Olympian, makes his pro debut on the show, and just a lot to look forward to on there. But the main event is the one that everyone's talking about, particularly in Liverpool. And yeah, I can't wait. The atmosphere in the arena is going to be something else. So yeah, that Fury Wilder isn't the only hugely anticipated fight this weekend. And before I go, I should also mention Frank Warren's got a show in Birmingham on BT Sport on Saturday night as well. Headlined by, and this has gone under the radar a bit, but it's a really good fight for British, Commonwealth and European super bantamweight titles between Brad Foster, who's held the 2 first named belts for quite some time now and wants to push on and really make that spring up to world level now. Former kickboxer who's just looked really, really good in his last few fights. Against Jason Cunningham, who upset the odds against Gamal Yafai to win that European title, but looked better than he ever has in doing so. You've got an intelligent, hard-hitting pressure fighter going up against a very skillful, more of a kind of mobile boxer in Cunningham, rangy. Style should mesh incredibly well in that fight, and it is for the 3 traditional kind of domestic major titles. And yeah, just a very, very good fight that people aren't talking about enough. I didn't want to end this, and I'm going close to the 15-minute mark, I can see, but I didn't want to end this vlog without mentioning it, because I will be trying, depending on times clashing and so on, I'll be trying to watch that one too. Obviously, I want to hear from you guys. Which fight are you most looking forward to over the weekend? What are your predictions for Fury Wilder, Smith Fowler, and Cunningham and Foster? Let me know. I'll be back on Monday, 4:30 for reflections, looking back on all this action. And then the following week, the same week, Thursday next week, Flexpectations again at 4:30. Where I'll be looking ahead to next week's action. Really appreciate your time as always. Do comment, like, and all the other stuff. And I will see you all soon. Cheers.